Hi, I'm Julie Neckley, and this is a video on the colors black and white. I feel like in general we see a lot of human behavior as being based on things like willpower and choices that people make, but I tend to see it as being a little bit more determined by the forces that are controlling us or dominating us. However you want to think of those forces. Like, you could think of them as like spirits, or I guess planets. I tend to think of them as colors. But regardless, I think it's like if you're being dominated by a certain type of spirit, like let's say a black spirit, and like all of the thoughts that enter your mind are like dark thoughts, and all of the impulses you have are dark impulses. It's like, and your perspectives are dark, and the world, it's like when you're completely dominated by a specific type of energy, I think it's like at a certain point it becomes really impossible to act in a way that's totally counter to that energy. So this is about two energies, black and white, that are like, I think they're kind of like a toggle switch in people. It's like a spectrum. Like everyone tends to have their current position like on the black-white scale. As you get more white, you kind of automatically get less black, and vice versa. So what's the difference in white and black? Well, white is like this, it's like this spiritual color, like, oh, we're all one. It's like this peace, it's uplifted, it's accepting, it's loving, it's benevolent. Like women tend to have more white energy than men, which is why they're less likely to chop people's heads off, but it's also why they're more likely, like let's say there's a flood and they're like knitting scarves for the teddy bears of the flood victims or something. It's like sometimes they might, the problem with white is that it's not always like effectual. Like you might be praying for people who are in a horrible situation, which I do think that prayer counts, but at the same time you might not think of taking more direct measures, like you're like praying for the serial killer or whatever, rather than like getting a gun and going out to kill them or whatever. And also with excess white, you really start to become super naive, because you'll see like someone with like an axe dripping in blood right in front of you and be like, oh, he just needs love. You start to feel that like love can solve all problems, basically. So you sort of become like, like when we sometimes we'll make fun of people who are super religious or like super new age or whatever, and like that's kind of someone who's maybe overdosed on white. Like I used to be definitely that way. It's like everything I owned, I wouldn't own a single thing that was black. I hated black. Everything had to be white or the very lightest shade of pink. No matter what the problem was, my response would be to like pray over and over for the person to be like surrounded by divine love. I only allowed one type of artwork in my home, which was pictures of baby unicorns accompanied by their mother. I was extremely white. I was scared of scared of negative thoughts. I would only like think positive things, etc., etc. That's like someone who's like kind of gone off the deep end with white. Whereas black puts us in touch with our own like selfish urges. It gives us our own drives. It gives us our own will. With white, we're like, oh, God's will be done. We don't really have a sense of our own will, which makes us easily controlled. Black has a sense of, this is what I want. This is who I am. These are my thoughts. These are my feelings. Whereas someone who's super white, they can't really tell what's their will or what's someone else's will, what's their thoughts or someone else's thoughts, their feelings versus someone else's feelings. They can be like really psychic of others because they don't really have a lot of boundaries. People with a lot of black can be psychic too, but they're psychic about different things. They see like the underlying motives that people are hiding. They see like hidden danger, stuff like that. And if black goes too far, they just become paranoid, basically, because at that point they can only see bad things. They can't see the good things, which then warps their perspective. But black, it increases selfishness, for better or worse. It increases drive. It increases sexuality. It increases awareness of dangers. Does it increase sexuality? I'm putting a pin on that. I'm not sure. It increases awareness of danger. It's basically like it increases the ability to deceive, because with black, there's a clear distinction between you, okay, this is what I really think and feel, this is what I need to show people, right? So you can like deceive people, or to put it in other ways, you can like act skillfully, whereas with too much white you really lose the ability to act skillfully because you're no longer thinking strategically at all. Like, you know, when a person has gone all the way to black, then they're like the person hiding in their parents' basement, stockpiling weapons, watching porn and video games, and stockpiling like crypto and money and crypto. And yeah, they're just like and they're paranoid, and they, you know, their dream is to like blow something up. But a person who's like has a more moderate level, but they're still skewed black, that's someone who's going to probably be like really driven and successful in their career. And also like addicts would be people who are like struggling with like too much black that they can't control. Because black gives you this urge to like fulfill your desires. It gives you compulsion. It gives you like these strong like obsessions, like these obsessive feelings that you have to satisfy. Back in the past, I used to like sometimes absorb what I would call people's rectangle ghosts. It's sort of like somebody else's energy configuration would just overtake me, and I would just become a different person for a short period of time until it wore off. It was horrible. But like once this, like basically the sex addict persons, I absorbed their rectangle ghost by accident, and it was horrible because it's like I would have done anything to have sex. Like I would have murdered someone. I didn't care. It's like this obsession just and drive like overtook my mind. It was really scary, and it gave me like definitely a lot more empathy for people who are like have some type of addiction or something, because it's like, I mean, I was the same person that I am now, and yet while possessed by different energies, I would have done really bad things without a thought, because it was just overwhelming, the feelings and the urges. It only lasted a few hours though. Okay, so that's black. So like the good part about black is it lets you achieve your goals. It lets you be smart and wily. It lets you have your own will. It lets you stand up for yourself. Like if you're someone who can't say no and you just always end up as someone else's servant, then that's really someone who needs more black. But if you're someone who's like kind of controlled by dark urges, or you're just like so paranoid, or you reach the point where you're so paranoid you're not even functional. And also black increases emotional intensity. Like white gives you a sense of detachment from your pain and your emotions. It's almost like a anesthesia or an opioid or something. It's like, oh, it will all be okay in the end. So for better or worse, you know, it's like horrible things can be happening, but you have this weird spiritual detachment from it, which isn't necessarily good. But it reduces pain. It reduces internal suffering, you know, at the expense of acting. It decreases your likeliness of acting on your problems, but it also decreases internal suffering. Whereas black gives you the impulse to respond and try to solve your problems, but it also increases the amount of frustration and suffering and like anger and just like that sort of stuff that you feel inside. So I mean, what determines how much white versus how much black a person has? I mean, probably most people at different points in their life have occupied different points on the black-white spectrum. And I think it's, you know, useful that you can like move yourself from one point to another when you need to. I mean, like let's say for example that you're in a hospice and you're dying. That's a time when you need tons of white, and you need like, you basically need no black, because you don't want to be like in fight mode. You want to be like just free to fly, to be at peace, to see things as positive, you know, to not have fear. So that would be a time when you can just go like all out with the white. Yeah, but anyway, so in terms of how you move from one to another, I mean, it's like all of the things that we call spiritual or we associate with spirituality are things that are going to move a person more further along the white spectrum, right? Like prayer, handing it over to a higher power, because like addicts, alcoholics, they have like excessive black, deficient white generally. So it's like they go to AA and they learn to be less selfish. They learn to be like, to give their problems to a higher power. White is not selfish, it's giving your problems to a higher power. It's not my will, but your will, all that stuff, that's white, right? So it's like prayer, religion, or any form of spirituality where you're trusting a higher power, where you're focusing on God's will, not my will, where you're seeing the answers and the power and the results as being in someone else's hands. Those things all increase white. Things like meditation increase white. Things like, yoga and veganism, reading spiritual text, because spiritual texts are always kind of about like detaching from your own will, your own ego. Just like wearing white, surrounding yourself with white, playing music like like new age type music. I mean, if you just like totally ensconce yourself in that reality, or you could join like some like Hindu cult or something, and it's like you're gonna start to get more white, Now for increasing black, so it's like obviously like wearing black and stuff. Sorry, I'm having to think about this because black deficiency is like one of my biggest issues. Like I said, for like most of my life, I like avoided anything black. But now I'm like, but more recently I haven't been as much. But anyway, so what do you do to get more black? Like, okay, like eating meat helps. Obviously wearing black helps. If you focus more on things like money, success, power, sex, and I mean, really, part of it is just about not being afraid of the dark side. Like, don't be afraid to see the bad in other people. You can practice deceiving them if you've, like, risen to that level where that's a possibility for you. Yeah, I don't know. I need to come up with better ideas for this. But I mean, definitely just like surrounding yourself with the color black will probably do the trick, honestly. So yeah, I'm trying to think if I have anything more to say. No, that's the black-white spectrum. And I just think it's really interesting because whatever person is on that spectrum, we tend to see that as their nature. Like white, oh, they're such a good person. Black, oh, they're a selfish person. But it's like, when you have white, does it make you a good person? Because you literally can't think selfish thoughts, right? Like you can't have like these nasty feelings. They're simply missing. So are you really a good person, or you're simply someone who doesn't even have access to those forces? And likewise, when you're black, when you're all covered in black, like you don't have access to the white perspectives. You don't have access to white feelings, to white perspectives, to white detachment. It's like you can't even access those things. So it's like, are you know what I mean? It's like someone who's like a drug addict, and then they become the spiritual person. Were they bad and then they're good, or they're just like the same person under different influences? Anyway, that's sort of irrelevant, but I guess that's all I have to say. So I'm Julie Neckley. Thank you. Bye.